Broadcasting live from the Hex Halloween hijinks, this is Pop Culture Reference, your one-stop reference for all things pop culture. I'm one of your hosts, Seamus Connolly.
I'm Dr. Movies.
I'm Ricardo. I don't have a doctorate. I'm an undergrad.
Oh man, now you
Hello.
both have intro things and I don't, and I need to catch up. I'm falling behind.
But let's go ahead and move into news. We've got quite a bit of it to cover today. Starting off with the sad news that Christopher Plummer has passed away at 91 years old, leaving an absolute crazy legacy behind him of iconic roles up until really the end of his career. Like, I think his third to last credit was Knives Out, which he is an absolute presence in that movie.
Yeah.
And I think, like, honestly, one of his best performances that I've ever seen, and he turns in a lot of great performances.
Yeah, that's totally awesome, considering, I mean, like, I agree, he was really there for Knives Out. He wasn't just, like, the guy there to get murdered or whatever. He was doing his work.
I mean, Sound of Music, Academy Award winner for Beginners in 2013, nominated again when he was 88 years old for All the Money in the World, like, a triumph.
Wow. Yeah.
Real
God.
sad.
I didn't see that movie, so I guess I didn't know much about it.
But, Seamus, have you seen the classic Travolta-Cage duo Face Off?
You mean the best John Woo movie ever made? Yes, I have seen Face Off.
Off. No one can see it, but I'm doing the hand motions.
I knew you were doing them in real life, too. I could hear it in the voice for Face Off.
Okay, so we've got Adam Wingard directing a new remake of Face Off, which, I mean, why not? That sounds fun. Guys?
There's no word on whose faces are getting off yet, though.
I was
You
going
got
to say
any
it.
Ideas?
Like, who are the current two craziest people in Hollywood that they could put in this movie?
I mean, it's still Judge Travolta and Nicolas Cage.
It's a remake, but it's the same cast. I would watch that forever.
The one that I see getting thrown around a lot is Daniel Craig and Chris Evans, which I think would be really funny. I've also seen Pedro Pascal and Oscar Isaac.
Do kid Face Off. It's John Travolta's kid from the first movie. I guess he'd be an adult now. What if it's a legacy sequel instead of a reboot?
Oh, Lord.
I mean, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, to be honest. They're like, oh, the first Face Off, it went so well, we gotta do it again.
Oh, God. That scene in that movie is disgusting, if you don't remember, where they're taking the faces off. I do still love it, so I'm here for this remake.
Moving on to our next piece of news, we have a pretty crazy cast for the upcoming Judd Apatow pandemic-inspired comedy The Bubble, including Pedro Pascal, Karen Gillian, Fred Armisen, David Duchovny, Keegan-Michael Key, Leslie Mann, and I love him, but I can't say his name, Peter Serafinowicz.
Wow, you said it perfectly.
No one wants COVID movies, man. I can't get behind this.
I would usually agree with you, and I think we bonded over that when we talked about Lockdown with that Anne Hathaway movie, but
Yep.
I can only hope, since it's like a Judd Apatow raunchy comedy with all these funny people, it'll maybe take it in a less cutesy wink-wink manner and maybe just really lay it all out on the table. I think maybe that route could make it a little more bearable.
Once again, I'm going to pitch my Gilligan's Island pitch, but different. They're making a movie about COVID, and then they get shut down and stuck in quarantine.
That's actually pretty good.
There you go. You know, I'm full of one idea that I can apply to multiple scenarios.
We can't give it, like, a minute. Like, it's not even over yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. We're just running out of vaccine stuff already.
We'll see. I don't really care one way or the other. I like everybody in that cast pretty much, so...
Oh yeah, it's a stacked cast. I just wish it wasn't a COVID movie.
Speaking of stacked casts that I wish weren't other things, Jack Black's gonna be Claptrap in the new Borderlands movie.
Get The Rock in there, and then we have another Jumanji going. It'll be great.
Oh yeah, another video game movie.
Oh God, that's right.
Three guys. Claptrap's like the only character I actually know from Borderlands. I remember liking Claptrap. He's a funny little robot guy.
Yeah, he's the comedy relief in a lot. I guess all those games are full of comedy, but he's like a charming little robot buddy, as far as I remember.
Mm-hmm. In sad but probably inevitable news, Disney is shutting down Blue Sky Studios. Which, I mean, this is one of the continuing ripples of the Fox acquisition, shutting down an entire animation company which was making, frankly, not very good movies that were directly in competition with Disney and Pixar properties. So it makes sense from a business perspective. It just sucks when thousands of people lose their jobs.
This is garbo. We're in a pandemic and so many people are laid off. Not to mention, this is like the gutting of like the East Coast animation scene. Like that was one of the few like huge studios on that side of the country. Not to mention, there was a particular movie from a creator people like. She created that Netflix She-Ra show. It was a movie based on her graphic novel that was 75% done. They had 10 months left, and they just shut the whole thing down.
Wow, that is insanely bogus.
Bad news all around.
Yeah. Up next, we have a couple of new animated series coming from Fox. The Clue animated series, based on the board game and film of the same name, and a Dan Harmon-headed ancient Greek animated comedy as part of his exclusive deal with Fox.
Yeah, some weird stuff here, man. I mean, Clue animated series, I think, could be interesting if they go for a anthology. Every season's a new mystery. I don't know if they'll keep the same like mystery solvers or if they'll switch that up too. Garrett, I think you mentioned at one point before, time jumps maybe could be really fun if they're just like, will really go wild like those last couple seasons of Archer. That could be something interesting.
And then, yeah, the Greek comedy sounds niche to me, and I've not been a huge fan of the stuff that Dan Harmon's been putting out the last couple of years, even though I do love Community, but we'll see how that goes. Up next, some sad news. Brooklyn Nine-Nine has decided that it will end after its next season, Season 8. Dan Gore put out a statement talking about how they're choosing to end the series on their own terms, which makes a lot of sense to me given the fact that I think a lot of the characters' arcs have run their course. It's getting a little bit tired, and especially given the current political climate, I think it's probably just easier if they take off while they're ahead.
But like Season 9.
Yeah, that...
You could have ended it at Season 9.
Brooklyn 999. It would have been... It's lost to history now, but that would have been a great one.
A quick bit of follow-up on news we talked about a couple weeks ago. Chapelle's show will be returning to Netflix with Dave Chapelle's blessing. Turns out they struck a deal where he is getting the compensation that he felt he was owed. And I think this is a really big step in companies like Netflix actually listening to content creators, but it's also really good for Dave Chapelle to be making sure that he is getting what he is owed as a content creator and not letting himself be exploited for work that he did when he was younger and needed to get that kind of work.
Yeah, because Chapelle shows like a huge part of his like legacy, and to not have any part of that anymore would be a complete shame.
Yeah, he's been advocating for bigger changes with the content that he put out that made him so famous, and I'm glad to see that he's getting some of the compensation that he's owed for decades and decades of his work being exploited. So I'm happy to hear that he has some of that back.
Other Netflix news, Ricardo, I think you should take this one, given your affinity for the subject matter.
We've got Over the Garden Wall creator Patrick McHale coming to Netflix with a new movie and a show. That's going to be an adaptation of the Redwall book series. Which
I've always heard is really good, little anthropomorphized animals living in Redwall Abbey, but I've never actually checked it out. Have either of you guys read it?
I've never even heard of it, actually.
No, I didn't even know. Now knowing what it's about, I think this is perfect for Patrick McHale. He's allowed to be probably a little darker. If you've watched Over the Garden Wall, you know the energy, the work that he puts out. I think this is a perfect match for him.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to see it. I loved Over the Garden Wall, and, I don't know much about Redwall, but, Netflix is really, they made that claim that they're trying to surpass Disney in animation, and they're really not showing many signs of slowing down on that, so I'd like to see if they can really give the majors a run for their money on that.
Here's some absolutely colossal news in our big stream of HBO news we've got coming up. the HBO series The Last of Us has finally found its Joel and Ellie in Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, who is best known for portraying little Lyanna Mormont on the last couple seasons of Game of Thrones. Definitely a fan favorite and a really great performance. This seems like really good casting to me.
I've been seeing a lot of people pull out this joke. So, oh man, I can't wait to see Pedro Pascal be a morally ambiguous protector of this adopted child as he wanders the wasteland.
Yeah.
Why does that sound familiar?
Yeah, that thought had occurred to me as well, and we'll circle back to some more Mandalorian talk here in a minute, but I think it definitely is probably a contributing factor to his getting hired, knowing that he could play this kind of role, but I think he is a really good fit for that character. But we've got a bunch of HBO Max animation news coming down the pipeline. The long-rumored Clone High reboot is officially coming for 2 seasons at least to HBO Max. Mindy Kaling is developing a adult animated Velma origin series. There is Fired on Mars, an existential workplace comedy about a tech company's Martian campus starring Pete Davidson is coming, animated as well. And finally, close enough, the animated series already on HBO Max has been renewed for 2 more seasons. So, I mean, this all seems relatively interesting to me. I'm guessing the Velma show is in 2 parts a response to, 1, the recent cult revival of the adult Scooby-Doo and live-action films from a few years ago, and 2, HBO's ongoing success with the Harley Quinn series.
The thing that gets me, Velma, she's a teenager. She didn't have anything before joining the gang. Why is this an origin? Wouldn't it make more sense if it was all of them together as in like an adult animated show? Why is it?
Yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from there. It would almost make more sense if it was like a post Scooby-Doo animated adult Velma show. But yeah, I don't know how they're going to make an adult animated show out of like pre-high school Velma. Didn't they meet in high school? I don't know.
I mean, they also haven't said it's connected officially to any like pre-existing Scooby-Doo property or continuity. All the time, stuff comes out that they say, when they announce stuff, they say origin movie, and then it turns out to be just a solo property. Like Black Widow was supposed to be a origin movie when they announced it, and now it's coming out. I think it's set between Civil War and Infinity War, so it's a solo movie, even though it's not origin. I think it's very possible that we could get more information on this that might kind of contradict a lot of the assumptions that we're making based on the information we've been given so far. And then we've got a couple of kind of uncomfier topics to talk about. One, we've talked about this on the show multiple times. Gina Carano, Cara Dune on The Mandalorian, is no longer employed by Lucasfilm, and in their statement they said there are no plans for her to return to Lucasfilm properties in the future, meaning effectively that she has been fired and will no longer appear on The Mandalorian, following a lot of controversial, anti-Semitic, anti-LGBT social media posts and
COVID denying.
Yeah, just really terrible things all over her social media. So, I mean, I'm honestly surprised it took them this long to fire her.
But Garrett, isn't this cancel culture?
Rightfully canceled. She sucks, man. She's the worst.
She keeps saying that they can't cancel us unless we let them cancel us or something like that. I don't know, but
I don't know when people are gonna get it through their freaking heads that yeah, you can say what you want, but there are still consequences.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm assuming the reason they took so long to actually act on this is because they didn't want to step on the last couple episodes of the Mandalorian season, which does make sense to me, and it sounds like this was already in the works all the way back in November, when they were originally going to announce her as the lead of what I can only assume was going to be the Rangers of the New Republic series, and they decided to nix that from Investor Day. But we've got more news we've been covering, for the past couple months. The Ray Fisher accusations against Joss Whedon's misconduct on the Justice League set. And now we've had 2 more actors come forward from Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel, Charisma Carpenter, and Michelle Trachtenberg. Charisma Carpenter, who gave a very long statement that we will link on social media because it is too long to read on air, but basically detailing the verbal harassment and essentially bullying that she underwent on the sets of both Buffy and Angel, in addition to Michelle Trachtenberg, who was a minor at the time she was shooting on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, who said that there was a rule on set that she could not be alone with Joss Whedon after an incident that she did not elaborate on.
Oh boy, Jesus.
So yeah.
Yeah, man.
It's
all pretty damning.
Yeah, it's pretty damning stuff. I will be interested to see who else comes out and says stuff. I know Sarah Michelle Gellar gave a very brief post.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up, where she said she's happy that to be like associated with Buffy and stuff, but she does not want to be at all tied to Joss Whedon. She fully supports everyone that's come out.
Yeah, and I think that's great. I'm very interested to see where this goes, how this plays into the Ray Fisher stuff, but I think, once again, we keep saying this every time we bring it up, it speaks to how well Ray Fisher is handling this, and his professionalism and his persistence is emboldening others to speak out. And I think that's really strong and really impressive. And it also makes me feel icky, because two of my favorite shows are Buffy and Firefly, and that just makes me real sad that so many people were going through bad things, it sounds like, on the sets of those. Our last piece of news is that Taylor Swift has released the full version of her re-recorded Love Story song called Love Story Taylor's version, and has announced that the full re-record of her album Fearless will be coming out in April. She's following up on the issues that she's been having with the record label that she recorded most of her albums with at the beginning of her career, which essentially are kind of similar to the way Dave Chappelle is fighting back against the way he was exploited, not giving her the compensation that should be entitled to somebody who wrote and performed the best-selling discography of the 21st century. And so she is re-recording all of her old albums.
For the one she's released, is this like a straight re-record? Are there any like little differences, like lyric-wise, with the Love Story re-record?
I don't believe there are lyrical differences, but I've heard it, and there are definitely some changes in instrumentation, which I think this version's actually better. So I'm hoping that's the general trend with these re-records, is that she takes what she's learned as an artist over the past, 10 years and applies them to those older songs that are already, I think, by themselves pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always glad to hear the stories about artists reclaiming their work for themselves and, getting what they're owed. So I'm glad to hear that she's well on her way to releasing that album, and hopefully no more legal or copyright or whatever it was loopholes that she was getting screwed by can creep back up.
Absolutely. And that wraps us up for news, so should we move on to our main segment?
Let's do it.
Today, we will be covering Judas and the Black Messiah, which premiered on February 12th on HBO Max and is available to stream for 30 days after that date. You can also go see it in theaters if you're doing that sort of thing, which you probably shouldn't be if you live in America, which almost all of our listeners do, so...
Yeah, shout out to our, 2 listeners from India. They know what's up. Yeah, man, this movie, general impressions, I thought it was very well done, and this is not a light movie. This is some heavy drama.
It is very bold, I think, especially as it's essentially the headliner for Warner Brothers' new lineup on HBO Max. The film itself is turbulent and well executed and shamefully relevant. And the fact that Warner and HBO Max are backing that up by essentially making it the first really high-profile release on HBO Max, I think says something about their attitude about how strong a piece this is, given how controversial it is in the current political climate.
Oh yeah, it's incredibly strong. I I really like the fact that none of it is sugarcoated. Like, they pull no punches with this movie. They lay it all out there on Front Street.
Yeah, truly, making it, like you said, Garrett, the spearhead of these releases and having it be that just, like, dark, gritty, historically based powerhouse of a film. It's an incredible start to that run, and just as a film in general, yeah, the candidness in which they present like such a horrifying reality that is that era of American history, and all the struggles that continue to this day from that. It's hard to watch in this day and age and still see so much familiarity in our own streets right now, but I guess that's the point of having this movie come out at a time like this.
I agree, this is a really good movie. I was so angry just watching it throughout the whole thing, because this is all based on the fact that this happened, and it still happens. The injustices just portrayed in this movie, it'll get you real fired up.
Expertly directed by Shaka King, a director I was not familiar with before I saw this film, but he's directed a couple of smaller independent films over the last few years, I feel like every time we talk about a new movie, that's what I say. I actually hadn't heard of this director, but he directed a few strong independent films. But this is a calling card, arrival on the scene piece, if I've ever seen one, with really great performances from Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield, who are proving to be, once again, some of the most versatile and competent leading men working right now.
Yeah, hard agree on that one. Just some of those moments with Lakeith Stanfield in this movie were like, I could feel the stress in his character. I could like feel my own eyes welling up at a lot of moments where he was just like so stuck. My personal favorite performance was Daniel Kaluuya. Every scene he was in, just phenomenal. I think just to sum up his character in like a word, it's unflappable. The man just retained his composure like the whole time, despite the atrocities happening before him. Going to some behind the scenes stuff, I didn't know this until I was like done with the movie. The Lucas brothers worked on this movie. They had a story credit on it. I had no idea.
No, neither did I. Like, I also want to continue to sing Daniel Kaluuya's praises, because I feel like every single year since Get Out, he has given one of the best performances of the year. Last year, Queen and Slim, which if you guys did not see, is also just a profoundly upsetting film, but really well made. Widows, the year before that, and then going all the way back to 2017 with Get Out, is just, he is turning up really different performances every time, but really strong ones, all of them.
Yeah, he just can't mess up, man. Whatever it is about it, every time I see him on screen, he's playing just like the most impassioned character I can think of, and he plays impassioned well. Especially, I mean, his whole character in this is just like burning fire in his chest from every single moment that he's doing anything. He's great at that.
And from his performance, you get a sense of how influential Fred Hampton was, and how he was able to, like, the Rainbow Coalition, just bring all these people together under one common goal.
Now, I don't know about you guys and how familiar you were with the Black Panther Party as a whole. Before this, I had a vague awareness of Fred Hampton and the Rainbow Coalition from, like, going to Chicago History Museums and reading and stuff like that, but nothing near a in-depth knowledge of who he was and what exactly all he accomplished. And I do attribute that partially to, like, I don't know what you guys' education was like on the civil rights movement, but I had a teacher in high school who was basically like, and also the Black Panthers. If you want to know more about them, watch Forrest Gump. And I was like, oh, okay, so that's how we're doing it.
Yeah, in little Catholic grade school and high school in Chicago, it didn't really go too far into the Black Panthers.
Yeah, I think that's the issue with like most public education regarding the civil rights movement. It's Martin Luther King and no other
Malcolm
examples.
X for a paragraph.
And even then, they heavily sanitize.
A lot of the general tone given to him is like, and there was also Malcolm X, but he was scary, so we don't really talk about him.
Yeah, that's literally what it was.
Real quick, you guys want to break down the story?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about it. I mean, obviously based on a true story, a young, low-level criminal, Bill O'Neill, gets caught up in a plan to inform on Black Panther civil rights leader Fred Hampton by being convinced by the FBI to infiltrate the Black Panther Party and feed them information that will allow them to more successfully take them down in 1960s Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, that's laying it down pretty well.
If we're talking about the story and the character work, I think something that really stood out to me is it reminded me a lot of Selma in how it really makes a valiant effort to humanize civil rights leaders by giving them depth beyond their movement. Fred Hampton's wife is played fantastically by Dominique Fishback, who I had never seen in anything before, but I think gives a performance that will not be nearly as celebrated as Daniel Kaluuya's or Lakeith Stanfield's, but is just as vital to this story having the emotional impact that it does.
Oh yeah, I agree with you 100%. I love their the way they built up their relationship, and that only serves to just really hit you even harder because you know how this ultimately ends.
Absolutely. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to Jesse Plemons.
Yes, I was waiting for my chance.
Just what a fantastic, textured, gut-wrenching performance about, like, the banality of evil, truly.
Is my man's ever not playing an
just like
utter
a major
scumbag?
creep and
Jesse Plemons, I don't know, I think he's a pretty versatile actor. Have you guys watched, Friday Night Lights?
oh yeah, he is in Friday Night Lights. That's a young Jesse Plemons.
He's so good. Landry, my boy Landry.
I've seen him in like Breaking Bad where he's a scumbag, and I've seen him in Game Night where he's a total creep. And
yeah, he is a creep at Game Night.
I mean, I love him in Game Night, but
I do think that he does get typecast in that stuff, even though I do think he's really capable of doing any kind of role. Also, really creeped out by Martin Sheen, Uncanny Valley, J. Edgar Hoover.
oh my god, yeah. So weird.
I am definitely inspired to go learn more about Fred Hampton as I go on, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit, right after we're done with the main segment. But yeah, I mean, what a excellent film at achieving exactly what it wants you to feel.
Totally. They had a target of just like dread in emotional response, and I'd say they hit it for me.
This movie had me bawling my eyes out.
Yeah, man.
Especially after like when Fred Hampton speaks to the mother of Jacob Winters, and like they go into like his childhood, like his relationships with different people, and how they're just going to paint him as this like cold like cop killer, and that's what they're going to determine his legacy to be. It's that stuff like that happens still to this day.
Just looking at it from this window of the film on screen, and you can obviously see where the moralities of each side of that conflict lie. Whereas one side is literally feeding, hungry children and, making community schools and health clinics, and the other side is just blatantly antagonizing them until they are quote-unquote justified in killing them. It's all too horribly familiar right now.
And I also really like that the film, while being very clear about all the points you just spoke to, really puts you in Bill O'Neill's shoes. And, I mean, like, it's there in the title, Judas and the Black Messiah, but really makes you understand what choices he's having to make and how the system that he's stuck in is putting him in impossible situations.
Yeah, it would have been really easy to villainize Bill O'Neill, but you understand where he's coming. You may not agree with his choices, but you understand just the rock and a hard place that they put him in.
We're recording this on the day it's released, so I'm interested to see what the recognition and reputation of this film comes out as, because, I mean, I was very impressed with it. I'm excited to learn more about the events it's been depicting.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to see for award season where it fares, because I think it's got pretty good chances in a lot of areas.
And we'll see you right on the other side. I think if we're done here, we'll see you on the other side of this transition with a little bit of a different pop culture reference for today's episode. For today's pop culture reference, we're going to be taking things a little bit differently in light of the very heavy and sensitive topics that the main segment of today was discussing, and given the fictionalized nature, no matter how true or well executed, of Judas and the Black Messiah, we wanted to give you some truer to life resources if you wanted to learn more about the Black Panther Party and the events depicted in the film. So we're going to link all these in the description, we're going to put them out on social media, but just a few books and other resources for you guys to go look at. The Assassination of Fred Hampton is a book by Jeffrey Haas. Soul on Ice is the memoir and collection of essays by early Black Panther Party leader Eldridge Cleaver. There is the Zinn Education Project's Women in the Black Panther Party, which is a collection of resources including documentary films, interviews, essays, archival texts that you can reference and learn more about the role that women played in the Black Panther Party, something that is often overlooked, and this movie takes a great deal of care in showcasing. Acclaimed French filmmaker Agnes Varda's 30-minute documentary entitled Black Panthers, made in the 1960s. You can stream that right now on Criterion Channel, and I think it's even on Mubi right now, the streaming service that cycles its films every 30 days. And finally, a Smithsonian Magazine article we will link to. The Black Panthers were founded 50 years ago, and their influence hasn't waned. An article from 2016 that I think is very interesting to read in the context of what's taken place over the last 4 years, 5 years since the article was written, but also a really strong piece nonetheless about kind of placing the Black Panthers in a modern context and how they connect to contemporary movements and how their legacy lives on. And of course, there are tons of more great opportunities to learn more. These are just a few texts that, after doing research, I found recommended for me, I found insightful from the interactions that I had with them. So, I encourage you to go look at those. Once again, we're putting them links in the description of this podcast / video, however you're watching it, or listening to it rather, and we'll also link them on our social channels.
Yeah, I actually give my personal stamp of approval on that Varda documentary. I watched that, I think, last year in one of my French cinema classes, and it was really interesting to see a European perspective on something like the Black Panther Party, so definitely check that one out.
Varda is such a sensitive and inquisitive documentarian, and she packs so much punch into those 30 minutes.
Oh, yes. Pop quiz.
Alright, guys. Today's pop quiz, we're gonna have... Who won last week? Ricardo
Of course he did.
Of course.
God damn it.
Yeah.
Because Seamus just cannot catch a break, guys.
I'm waiting for my second wind. I'm gonna do a streak soon that's gonna blow Ricardo out of the water.
Well, right now he's ahead 7-4.
Okay.
Seamus, you know you get to pick your category today, so here are your options. Christopher Plummer or Judas and the Black Messiah.
I am gonna go with Judas and the Black Messiah.
Okay, you guys know how this game works. The first one of you to give me the correct answer gets the point. If neither of you can get it, or you say it at the exact same time, we'll move on to our tiebreaker question, which will be the other category. So are you ready?
Yes.
Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield previously co-starred in Get Out. What other Get Out cast member pops up in Judas and the Black Messiah?
Oh, God.
Was it the dad?
Or was
I
it
don't remember his name.
The grandpa who's stuck in the yard work housekeeper guy?
Alright, I'm
Damn
gonna
it.
call it, neither of you got it. It was Lil Rel Howery, who plays Rod, the TSA agent. He was...
Wait, was he the guy
he's
at
the
the end?
FBI agent.
Oh, no
towards the end of
way.
the film.
I didn't
I
even
knew he looked familiar.
He seemed familiar to me too, but I could not put my finger on it. That's crazy. Give us the tiebreaker question here.
Okay, category is Christopher Plummer, what two Academy Award records does Christopher Plummer hold?
Most Best Actor nominations?
Is it the most Oscars? Does he have like a bunch?
Right, you guys are losing. He's only got one Oscar. I think I tried to tee it up for you at the beginning of the show because he has been nominated for 3 Oscars, having won one of them for The Last Station, Beginners, and All the Money in the World. All 3 were for Best Supporting Actor. But he is the oldest acting winner ever at age 83 for Beginners, and the oldest acting nominee ever at age 88 for All the Money in the World.
God, he was, regardless of us losing that point, he was such an impressive man. Jesus, I know we touched on this already, but my God.
No, he's a treasure, and he will be missed, and he lived a very full life, but you boys don't get anything. You will not be missed. That's a little harsh.
Well, I'm definitely kicking myself. I could have had a chance to get a little closer, but that threat of a streak is still there.
Welcome back to Wandavisionaries, where we break down the latest episode of WandaVision. This week we're talking episode 6, All New Halloween Spooktacular. I'm also now realizing that if we just had a little bit more information going into this show, we could have named this segment The Hex Girls.
Damn it. I am pissed now, Garrett. Thanks for ruining my night.
As always, we are marking spoilers at the top of this episode because every episode of WandaVision is chock full of so many little hints towards the next episode and minimal plot moving forward. But that's just an observation that I've made.
Well, right off the bat, Jimmy Woo can kick ass for some reason. I love that.
Oh my goodness. Randall Park for Indiana Jones.
Yeah, he's a trained agent.
I don't know. He's the little, he was always like even intimidated in a way by like Scott Lang, and Paul Rudd's the least intimidating Avenger out there, but he just kicks ass. He just like totally judo chops this dude and takes his gun and
so
if
good.
anything, I would think that he would have Darcy's line of like, nobody told me about the plan, but he totally kills it.
No, it's really good. It gives me huge 80s Spielberg-y vibes when they're just, punching government agents, dragging them behind stuff, stealing their uniforms.
The best. I want one of those sword ponchos, by the way. Those look pretty slick.
But, actual content of this episode.
Like the big stinger at the end of the last episode getting a little more time.
Which they are seemingly setting it up to be maybe not multiverse stuff. Like, it's potential. They've given themselves a backdoor explanation for, like, oh, of course you didn't want to look your dead brother in the face.
Yeah, and where's your accent? And he's like, where's your accent? Like... That was pretty good.
I love that bit.
Yeah, it's a little strange. He has one line of like, why do you look different? Well, I understand why you made me look different, was basically his sentiment. And it's muddying some waters. We had just kind of gotten a little bit more of a concrete idea of what the hex is and like what the controlling factors may be. But now, they do that zombie reveal thing like they did with Vision a couple episodes ago. But I feel like that works less because she's not dragging around Pietro's body since Ultron, But if they played that as like in that flash moment of him being a zombie corpse, if it was the original actor for Pietro for just a second, I think that would have been perfect.
I wondered about that.
Really given a little more to the like you're manifesting me idea. But I think the kick-ass guy he's doing other stuff right now, maybe.
I really like Pietro in this one, man, as just the scumbag brother from out of town.
It's definitely, and I know, Ricardo, you were right, they went Malcolm in the Middle and not Full House, but he definitely was giving me Uncle Jesse vibes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The kids have their parents' superpowers, or not their parents, they have the twins, they have speed and witch powers. Yeah.
We got Wiccan and Speed.
In the scene where they first get their powers, I thought it was really smart, even though incongruous with like kind of the vibe of the rest of the stuff going on. The fact that The Incredibles is playing at the movie theater, and the way that she's telling them to restrain their super speed is very similar to the way that Helen talks to Dash at the beginning of that film. So I thought that was a nice little comparison, although I'm very curious about how you guys feel about... They did a little thing at the beginning of the episode which was new. It was like, all titles featured, now streaming on Disney+, and then they just played a bunch of Disney crap in the background of this one. And I don't know about you guys, but anytime they showed, like, The Incredibles, or The Parent Trap...
That was the other movie that was on that marquee.
Or the movie, I can't remember what movie they were watching in the park, that was also a Disney film. But it just took me out. I was like, oh yeah, I'm watching Disney, and it's corporate synergy, baby.
Yeah, vertical integration, man. Come on, get with the times.
Oh, Jack Donaghy, get out of here.
Oh yeah, we got that scene with Agnes in the car that they teased out in the trailers, where she does her witch laugh. It's a lot different than I was expecting. You know, I thought we were going to get a little more of a Harkness reveal there, because she's got the whole witch thing going. I still don't trust her as far as I could throw her, don't get me wrong, but...
Especially because she was somehow able to break free of Wanda's trance enough to get lost in a world that's supposed to be, like, perfectly oiled,
yeah,
you know?
That's some BS, man. She's up to something.
Agnes is still mad sus.
I don't trust those kids, man. I'm gonna be honest.
No, neither do I. Oh,
okay,
freaky.
Garrett, you're on my...
Really? You don't trust the new Zack and Cody?
They're gonna turn into zombies at some point, or something. Like, it's gonna be some messed up goon stuff over there. Oh, speaking of Wanda getting angry, the end of this episode is... There's a lot of stuff going on. She expands that hex by a ton.
A lot. Yeah, and our Kat Dennings, Darcy, is stuck inside, so that'll be an interesting to see how they
cannot wait
take that.
to see how she's integrated, because I assume next week is going to be like, it's modern, we've caught up here, right?
Well, it's not... The 21st century, Seamus, started 20 years ago. We've got 2 decades that is still retro
yeah, I guess,
TV.
But what is, like, mid 2000s TV that isn't reminiscent of, like, Malcolm in the Middle? Where do they go?
I mean, you could get, like, your How I Met Your Mothers, your Big Bang Theories. The mid-2000s was the weird transition for sitcoms between multicam, cheesy, just, like, self-contained episodes to more mature, single cam, moving away from the laugh track formats. But it was still, like, there are still weird things that are caught in the middle of that. And I mean, they could do an Office style thing. They could do How I Met Your Mother. They could do 30 Rock. I think there's a lot of room.
Yeah, I guess The Office was like 2001. When did The Office come out? Like,
I think like 2005.
Yeah, that could work. I was thinking that for more like pure modern, but I guess that would be like streaming stuff. They're probably gonna make a lot of hokey meta jokes about streaming. And before we close out, how about that commercial, huh?
That is a 90s commercial if I've ever seen one,
man,
dude.
That really unnerved me. I know there's a lot of unnerving stuff happening more rapidly in these episodes, but like, goddamn.
That's the one I can't quite decipher, because the other commercials are all tied back to Wanda and her past and her trauma. I don't fully get the yogurt
It's
one.
like yo magic when you don't know what else to do. It's like use your magic. I think it's as simple as like, it's the ultimate get out of jail free card. Like, it's when you're stuck, you don't know what else to do. That's
also
what you
something
do.
about like that kid slowly wasting away. Something about like maybe this magic is like this scale of magic or type of magic is damaging Wanda in some way, or she can't really understand it yet. Or I guess he's trying to open it and he can't get to the yo magic and he's dying.
And then our little tease for next week is we know Monica and Jimmy are on their way to meet a guy, so we'll see. It's definitely a character we know.
I can't wait till next week when Darcy does that John Krasinski Jim look to camera every 10 seconds. Right?
Wait, totally that's happening.
I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, Seamus. Yeah, you got it. Now it's time to Save the Rec Center, where we give you our weekly recommendations. I'm gonna jump in here first, if you boys don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
My parents and I have been watching the new sci-fi original series Resident Alien, starring Alan Tudyk. As of right now, it's only 3 episodes in, and Alan Tudyk is an alien that crash lands in a remote Colorado town, and has to pretend to be he disguises himself as a human and has to pretend that he belongs until he can find the remnants of his ship to complete his mission and get back to his home world. And it's goofy hijinks, and he's got a little kid nemesis, and it's really funny. Alan Tudyk's really good. I'm enjoying it a lot.
I like Alan Tudyk a whole lot. I'll probably check that out. Maybe once it has a few more episodes.
That was
out,
literally exactly what I was gonna say. I've seen some promo for it, and it looks like it's really funny. Who doesn't like Alan Tudyk in general? But when it's him doing a straight comedy, fish out of water sci-fi concept, that sounds like a lot of fun.
All right, what do you guys got
for the month of February? PlayStation Plus free games of the month. Going back to video games here, one of them was honestly is a game I've never heard of, but I've swiftly fallen in love with it. It's Remedy Entertainment and 505 Games Control. It is super Lynchian and super weird about a woman who goes and becomes the director of the United States Bureau of Control, which is a interdimensional research and free on PS Plus right now. If you don't have it, Garrett, I'm looking at you. Go download it.
I already have it downloaded to my PS5. After I'm done with God of War, that's probably my next
Please
stop,
do it, because I'm not even finished with it yet, but it is so cool. It's so weird. It's got the aesthetic of a SCP containment breach meets Twin Peaks in a lot of ways, and it's blowing me away, and I've never even heard of it before, so it's creepy, a lot of fun. The combat is really smooth. Give it a shot.
All right, Ricardo, what do you got?
I've got a show. Recently, I revisited it a couple weeks ago with my brother and sister. American Vandal, seasons 1 and 2.
Oh, yeah.
I think are just comedy gold, man. They're so well executed, and they're a perfect satire on the true crime genre. Yeah, it on the surface, it is a little juvenile. It's about poop and dick drawings. But there's always more than that. They're very good at balancing that with they have actual things to say. Very relevant to being a young person today. I don't think I've ever seen a show truly encapsulate just high school.
I love them too, man. I got everything you're saying is on point. It is so funny, and if you like true crime, it really, has a lot of fun with that in so many different ways. It's an absolute blast.
It's just you're exactly right, Ricardo. It's insane how well it captures just kids, dweebs that in high school. It's so well written. I'm super impressed with it.
That show was too good for this world. It is a shame Netflix didn't pick it up for a third season.
All right, I think that wraps us up for this episode of Pop Culture Reference. We had recently come out last Thursday a new series on our YouTube channel, Pop Culture Replay, which featured us playing the first half of the Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game, so please go check that out. We'll also link that in the description. If you're watching on YouTube, you could just click on over to that right now, give us a thumbs up and a comment below what other games you want to see us play on Pop Culture Replay. If you want to reach the show in any other way, you can tweet us at PCR_podcast. You can find us on Instagram on that same handle. You can go like us on Facebook now. We've got a new Facebook page. And, as always, you can email us at popculturereferencepod@gmail.com. Now, if I'm not mistaken, and I don't think I am, I believe next week we will be covering The Muppet Show. So each of us will be bringing in one episode of The Muppet Show to talk about. I'm very excited about it. Something I've been wishing was streaming for a really long time. So I can't wait for that. I don't have any other news. You can reach me at Garrett on Twitter.
At Walk of Seamus on Twitter. Walk of SEAMUS.
I guess I'll plug a thing real quick. Back when I was in high school, I won this Young Playwrights thing, and I got a thing I wrote produced. And that same theater recently reached out to me as an alumni of their thing. And they asked me to write a brief thing for their socials. It's going to come out, I think, on Sunday.
Oh, so same day as this
and
show.
It's going to have my Twitter. Yeah, it's going to have my Twitter link to it and stuff. That is the Pegasus Theater in Chicago. If you want to go follow them, they'll post a thing I wrote on there.
Very nice.
Excellent. Thank you, Ricardo. Alright, that wraps us up for this week. We'll see you next week when we cover the Muppet Show.
Adios, amigos.